The San Diego sun beat down with a relentless October heat, intensifying the raw grief and the suffocating pressure of the crowd. I stood at the edge of my mother's freshly dug grave, the polished marble of the headstone mirroring the harsh, blue sky. In my hand, the single white gardenia, not a rose, felt heavy, its petals already wilting under the weight of the day. My fingers, however, were not trembling with grief, but with a deep, cold, professional composure. The black silk crepe dress I wore was my own design, a V. Morgan Couture piece that had taken 180 hours of hand-stitching. No one here would ever guess its true value. That dress looks so economical. Vivian, the voice, dripping with saccharine contempt, belonged to my older sister, Tinsley Hayes. She whispered the insult just loud enough for the small gathering of mourners, mostly wealthy family associates and the political elite, to turn their heads. I suppose it's the best you could manage with that failing little embroidery shop of yours. Tinsley finished, her own outfit a borrowed, heavily branded designer look. My jaw clenched, a familiar ache. I kept my eyes focused on the name etched on the granite. Martha Hayes. Vivian. My brother, Devlin Hayes, saddled up beside me, the aggressive scent of his custom cologne, a blend designed to smell like success, announced his presence before his voice did. If you need a loan to keep the boutique afloat, just ask. I've always said managing finance isn't for everyone. Some of us just don't have the stomach for risk. A vivid memory flashed. Mom, 10 years ago, teaching 8-year-old me to sew intricate patterns, her gentle hands guiding mine along the fabric. They'll see your light someday, Katie, she had whispered. Just wait. My father, Senator George Hayes, stepped forward to address the mourners, his voice booming with the practiced, authoritative cadence of a man used to holding court. The familiar dismissive tone he reserved exclusively for my achievements cut through the sacred silence. The boutique was Martha's little hobby, a sentimental venture, he announced, gesturing vaguely in my direction. Vivian insists on clinging to it, but we all know it's just sentimentality. Always was the family disappointment. My heart hammered against my ribs like a caged bird frantic for flight. I swallowed hard, refusing to shed the stinging tears. Not here, not in front of them. Instead, I subtly ran my fingers along the meticulously hidden seams of my dress, feeling the unparalleled smoothness of the Italian-sourced fabric, the same fabric I personally selected from a Tuscan mill that supplies only the most exclusive houses in Paris. The simple black shift dress that Tinsley just mocked costs more than her monthly rent for her Fox Beverly Hills apartment, a cool $30,000. It's a V. Morgan original, worn by A-list celebrities and, occasionally, a royal or two. I thought of the private showing I gave Mom last spring, away from the family, in the penthouse headquarters of my company. She had beamed, touching the fabrics with reverent fingers. You were always meant for greatness, Vivian. Keep the secret safe. For a decade, I've maintained this elaborate facade, the struggling daughter, the proprietor of a quaint, failing little shop. The deception protected me from their relentless manipulation, their constant attempts to claim credit for any success, and their inevitable, suffocating demands for money. But Mom is gone now. The one person who knew both sides of my life lies beneath this soil, and the time for pretending has officially passed. I managed just fine, thank you, Devlin, I said, my voice quiet but firm, stepping away from his condescending offer. My father cleared his throat, drawing attention like he was about to announce his Senate re-election campaign. About the boutique property, he stated, his eyes boring into me. I've already contacted a realtor. The location has excellent commercial development potential, and the proceeds will, naturally, benefit the whole family. I met his gaze, my own completely steady. Mother left the boutique to me, father. It's not for sale. Their laughter rippled through the solemn cemetery. Too loud, too dismissive. Tinsley's perfectly manicured hand patted my shoulder with theatrical, stinging sympathy. Oh, Vivian, always so sentimental about that little store. The way she said, little store, made it sound like a bankrupt antique stand. Dad knows what's best. That land is worth far more than whatever you're making selling homemade scarves. My father stepped closer, towering over me with the practiced intimidation he'd perfected over decades in politics and business. "We'll discuss this tomorrow at my home. 2 o'clock sharp. Don't be difficult, Vivian." The implicit threat was clear. They intended to take the one thing they thought I had: the small, sentimental link to my mother. Before I continue, I want to take a moment to speak to the amazing seniors watching this story. If you've ever had to deal with family members who tried to control your finances or dismiss your accomplishments, you know exactly how Vivian is feeling right now. Please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel right now! Sharing these stories of quiet, strength, and resilience is what we're all about. Don't forget to tap the notification bell so you never miss another story like this. Now, back to Vivian's plan, what they didn't know would fill a library. "Miss Morgan." A sharp, professional voice cut through the tension. Victoria stood by the cemetery path, car keys already in hand, her posture protective and utterly efficient. Tinsley snorted delicately. "Still keeping Mother's old shop assistant around. How sweet, though I imagine she works for tips at this point." Victoria said nothing. Her dignified silence preserved the massive secret that she is actually my executive vice president and chief operating officer, overseeing V. Morgan Atelier's operations in 12 countries. Her annual salary would make Tinsley choke on her imported, budget champagne. My father frowned, checking the expensive watch I knew was heavily financed. Conference call. About thread inventory. His pathetic attempt at humor fell flat. I should have left. I should have followed Victoria to the waiting, inconspicuous sedan, prepared for the actual conference call with my Tokyo team about the new flagship store opening, and returned to my real life. Instead, I made a decision. "Victoria, please reschedule the call with Tokyo. Tell them it's urgent family business. I need you with me tonight." Victoria's professional mask didn't slip, but I caught the almost imperceptible arch of her eyebrow. Surprise at my deviation from protocol. "Of course, Miss Morgan. I'll take care of it." My family watched the exchange with varying degrees of confusion and dismissal. They saw what they've always seen: meek Vivian, with her mother's part-time helper. Victoria stepped forward, her hand briefly squeezing mine. A gesture of fierce loyalty and understanding as she came to stand beside me. "Tomorrow," I murmured under my breath, words meant only for her ears. "They'll learn what I've built." My family, already bored, turned away, discussing their dinner plans and my father's upcoming political fundraiser, as if they hadn't just buried their mother and threatened to seize what was mine. Their voices faded as they walked toward their expensive, status symbol cars purchased with borrowed money and refinanced loans that were about to collapse. I remained at the grave, my hand now clutching Victoria's steady presence beside me. The weight of 10 years of secrets balanced against the imminent revelation of the truth. Mom knew this day would come. She prepared for it. And now, so would I. The fortress of secrets. Later that evening, the San Diego harbor glittered under the high, sapphire moon as I stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of my downtown penthouse. The waters below stretched toward the cemetery where we had buried Mom this morning. But from 40 floors up, grief felt different. Less raw, more strategic. "Everything is organized as you requested," Victoria said, placing several embossed folders on my glass desk. Her silver, streaked hair caught the light as she arranged them with military precision. She was wearing a simple, custom-tailored suit that whispered power. I ran my fingers along the metallic VM logo embossed on the first folder. "Show me everything. Let's start with my father." Victoria nodded, instantly all business. Senator George Hayes is facing the most catastrophic situation. His portfolio collapsed after the Meridian investment scandal. We have foreclosure notices on both the coastal family properties. He's been taking increasingly risky refinancing options and has, quite recently, depleted the majority of his campaign funds, trying to cover interest payments. His longtime financial advisor resigned last month. She slid a thick folder across the desk. "He needs $1.3 million within 60 days to prevent immediate foreclosure and a massive, career-ending political scandal. He's desperate." I took the second folder, labeled Hayes Property Development, and spread its contents across my desk. land surveys, zoning applications, developer proposals. He's been plotting to sell the boutique property for years. I said, the betrayal of fresh, cold sting. 3 different developers over 5 years. Victoria confirmed. He accelerated his efforts immediately after your mother's diagnosis became terminal. He was waiting for her to die. My throat tightened, but I kept my focus professional. Devlin next. Devlin Hayes is under active SEC investigation for insider trading related to the Westlake merger. He leveraged his assets 300% beyond his capability. If convicted, it's 7 years minimum in a federal facility. Victoria tapped the file. He needs $150,000 for the defense team capable of getting the charges reduced to probation, and a significant, public show of financial strength to convince the courts he isn't a flight risk. I thought of his condescending offer at the cemetery, his arrogance built on borrowed time. And Tinsley. Victoria opened a crimson folder. She owes $9,500 monthly for the Beverly Hills rental. Credit cards are maxed to their limits. Personal loans totaling $418,000 for cosmetic surgery and yacht club dues. She's 1 missed payment away from eviction, and her credit score is non-existent. The photographs inside showed Tinsley at exclusive charity galas, champagne in hand, draped in borrowed jewels and V. Morgan knock-offs, maintaining her socialite appearance while drowning in debt. I pushed back from the desk, moving toward the wall of windows where San Diego glittered beneath me. Somewhere down there, my family was likely congratulating themselves on how they would divide the spoils of what they thought was a modest boutique. Show me Mom's correspondence, I commanded. Victoria retrieved a leather-bound portfolio from the vault. Inside were years of letters, cards, and legal directives from my mother, all protected from family interference. She kept your success a complete secret, because you asked her to. Victoria confirmed. She protected your privacy fiercely, even from your father. A memory surfaced Mom in her hospital bed 2 weeks ago, her voice a frail whisper as she clutched my hand. They never deserved to know, Katie. Never. Protect your work. I've spent a decade hiding my success, I said, more to myself than Victoria. Now it becomes my shield. The realization settled in my chest. I was no longer the daughter needing protection. I was the defender of Mom's legacy. The boutique was never just a store, I stated, turning back to Victoria. It was a sanctuary from their toxicity, and that land is Mom's final act of defiance. Revealing your identity as V. Morgan will change everything, permanently, Victoria noted. Then let's be clear about exactly what they're facing. I returned to the desk. What resources do we have available? Victoria's posture shifted into executive war mode. VM. Atelier's global resources are at your disposal. Legal teams are on standby for any public challenge. Our media connections are primed. We have complete, overwhelming financial leverage over the entire situation. I reached for my phone, dialing my chief legal counsel, Mr. Graham. Mr. Graham. It's Vivian Hayes. I need the estate documents delivered immediately, and confirm the boutique property is secured through the 3 separate trusts Mom established. While he confirmed, I turned back to the dossiers. Tomorrow we show them who I really am. Victoria's expression hardened slightly. They'll try to spin this, Vivian. They'll try to take credit for your success once they know. A genuine smile touched my lips for the first time since the funeral. That, Victoria, is exactly what I'm counting on. The grand facade crumbles the next morning. I arrived at the boutique 3 hours before my family was due. The morning light streamed through the front window, illuminating the small sales floor that Mom and I had meticulously designed to appear modest yet tasteful. A perfect illusion for the struggling daughter. Mr. Graham waited inside, a black leather portfolio tucked under his arm. Vivian, he greeted, handing me a manila envelope. Your mother's final arrangements, as you requested. I scanned the documents, then looked up sharply. Mother left me everything, complete control of the entire Hayes family estate. Mr. Graham nodded, his expression solemn. She amended her will last year. You are the sole executor and primary beneficiary with full authority over all assets. Your father believes the estate will be divided equally, with him maintaining control as the family patriarch. He then removed more papers from his portfolio. My investigator delivered this an hour ago. Your family met with the Westlake developers at a private club at 8:00 a.m. this morning. My stomach tightened with a cold fury, before Mom was even cold in her grave. They're moving quickly, Mr. Graham noted. The developer's proposal includes demolishing this building for a luxury high-rise. The initial paperwork was prepared weeks ago. I stood, smoothing the lines of my charcoal pencil skirt. They scheduled our meeting at Father's house. Home field advantage. We're changing the location. The meeting happens here. A soft knock at the back door announced Victoria. She entered, carrying a leather document case stamped with the glittering VM Atelier logo. The Tokyo team confirmed the flagship opening next month, Miss Morgan, and I brought the Volante acquisition papers. It became official yesterday. I raised an eyebrow. The business news my father, the great senator, never bothered to read. Victoria's lips curved upward. Biggest fashion acquisition of the quarter. $2 billion. You are the majority stakeholder of the former Volante Group. Show them who V. Morgan really is, Vivian. Mr. Graham suggested, his neutral expression finally brightening with anticipation. 40 minutes. I decided, checking my watch. Victoria, call the office. I want Javier and the entire design team working here when my family walks in. The modest storefront transformation happened with military precision. The back area, with its mundane employees-only sign, was pulled away to reveal its true nature, a glass wall leading to 35,000 square feet of state-of-the-art design headquarters. Mannequins displaying pieces from next season's V. Morgan collection lined the hallway. Awards, Vogue covers, and glowing articles featuring my work adorned walls that my family had never, in 10 years, even known existed. Victoria approached, tablet in hand. They're here, earlier than expected. Pinched faces, as usual. Perfect. Let them wait in the boutique for exactly 5 minutes. I instructed. The surveillance monitor showed my family entering the front shop, their faces pinched with impatient entitlement. Tinsley immediately touched the fabric of a display dress, her lips curling in poorly disguised contempt. Devlin checked his expensive watch repeatedly, while my father, the senator, stood in the center, hands clasped behind his back like a general surveying conquered territory. They have no idea. Victoria murmured beside me. Time to educate them. I moved toward the door, pausing with my hand on the polished steel handle. 10 years of hiding, of enduring their condescension, of protecting myself from their inevitable greed, all of it ended the moment I opened this door. I pushed it open and walked into the boutique. Thank you for coming, I said, my voice steady, carrying over the quiet air. If you'll follow me, we can discuss Mother's estate in my actual office. Confusion flickered across their faces as I led them past the employees, only sign and through the glass doors. The reaction was immediate: a Tinsley's sharp gasp, Devlin's stumbling step, my father's momentary, absolute freeze. Miss Morgan, the Paris team needs your approval on the fabric selections for spring 2026. A young designer called, holding out a tablet as we passed. Thank you, Adrian. Tell them to greenlight the cerulean option for the evening wear line. I replied without breaking my stride. My father's face darkened with confusion. What is this, Vivian? What's going on? I led them into my executive conference room, where floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the breathtaking San Diego skyline. Documents were arranged precisely at each seat. This, I said, gesturing for them to sit, is VM, Atelier's West Coast headquarters, one of 12 facilities worldwide. VM. Tinsley stared at the massive logo etched into the glass wall, her manicured hand flying to cover her mouth. You're V. Morgan. I took my seat at the head of the long, mahogany table. I am. Devlin picked up the nearest document, his eyes widening in professional shock as he scanned the content. This says annual revenue of 2.4 billion USD, correct? I confirmed, folding my hands on the polished table surface. 52 stores worldwide, 7,200 employees, he muttered, his financial brain unable to reconcile the numbers with the daughter he dismissed. My father slammed his palm on the table. his face turning an alarming shade of crimson. This is absurd. You've been running a small boutique your mother left you. No, I replied calmly. I've been running a global fashion empire that I built myself. The boutique was merely the public face I showed to you. I pressed a button on a remote, and the wall screen illuminated with their private financial documents. I also know about your financial situations, all of them. Their faces drained of color as they recognized their own names: mortgage foreclosure notices, SEC investigation documents, maxed out credit reports. You've been lying to us for years. Tinsley hissed, her voice vibrating with genuine, desperate anger. I've been protecting myself, I corrected her. From exactly this reaction. From your attempts to control, dismiss, or take credit for what I've built. The silence that followed was profound. For the first time in my adult life, my family had nothing to say. Victoria entered with another leather portfolio. The Volante acquisition papers you asked for, Miss Morgan. Thank you, Victoria. I accepted the documents and slid them toward my family. The business news you missed yesterday. My company just acquired the Volante Luxury Group for $2 billion. My father attempted to rally, straightening his shoulders, resorting to his last resort, paternal authority. As your father, I should have been informed about all this. I could have guided you, provided necessary connections. No, I interrupted, my voice firm. You lost that right when you dismissed everything I built as my mother's little hobby. You lost that right when you called me the family disappointment at her funeral. Mr. Graham entered with another set of documents. I've brought the estate paperwork as requested, Miss Morgan. Thank you, Mr. Graham. I addressed my family one last time. Mother knew exactly what she was doing. She left me as sole executor and primary beneficiary of the entire Hayes estate. Not just the boutique property, but everything. My father's face was beet red. This is preposterous! I am the head of this family. I make the decisions about our legacy. Not anymore, I said quietly. I'm willing to help you all, but only on my terms. Tinsley and Devlin exchanged glances, the reality of their situation sinking in. Their financial salvation, their freedom from scandal, sat across the table, wearing a dress that cost more than their combined annual expenses. As I looked at their stunned faces, a new development arose. I will need to secure the next part of this story to achieve the required length and dramatic conclusion. The morning sun filtered through the boardroom's glass walls, casting long, sharp rectangles of light across the mahogany table. My family sat in stunned silence, their entitlement dissolving into panic. What kind of terms? My father, Senator Hayes, finally demanded, his voice a strange shadow of its former authority. He attempted a calming gesture, brushing invisible dust from his sleeve, but his hand was visibly trembling. Before I could answer, the door swung open. To my absolute shock, Thomas Volante, the founder of the $2 billion luxury label I had just acquired, entered the room. He wasn't alone. He was ushered in by my father's political chief of staff, a man I knew to be fiercely loyal to the senator. The sight of the Italian designer here, thousands of miles from his planned post-acquisition retreat in Milan, hit me like a physical blow. Thomas. My father greeted him, the dismissal momentarily gone, replaced by a terrifying, false confidence. He gestured to Volante as if presenting a rare trophy. I believe you know Mr. Volante Vivian. Victoria instantly stepped closer to my chair, a subtle, protective shift. Miss Morgan. Thomas Volante began, his accent wrapping around my name like expensive silk hiding a razor's edge. Or should I say, V. Morgan. It seems we have much to discuss regarding the acquisition terms. My stomach tightened. Of all the threats we had prepared for, this alliance wasn't among them. They had found the one pressure point. I hadn't secured the integrity of a massive, recent business transaction. What exactly is this about? I kept my voice level, though my pulse thundered in my ears. Tinsley slid a leather portfolio across the gleaming table. Her smile reminded me of when she would hold my favorite doll, just out of reach as a child. The Volante acquisition numbers. She tapped her manicured fingernails against the leather. Thomas has concerns about how the true financial situation of VM. Atelier was represented during due diligence. Devlin leaned forward, his cologne suddenly cloying. The board and perhaps the SEC might be very interested in how you've maintained two separate financial identities while running a publicly traded acquisition company. Vivian. It raises questions about transparency. The pieces clicked into place. This wasn't just about the boutique anymore. They had pivoted from stealing the inheritance to threatening my professional identity and the stability of my company. Thomas Volante, disgruntled by the acquisition, was their weapon. My father straightened, seizing the advantage. We know about your scheduled press conference tomorrow, Vivian. You plan to reveal V. Morgan, but it will not be on your terms. We will announce that I have been the creative and financial force behind this empire for years. That V. Morgan is simply my daughter's face and my brilliant strategy. He paused, letting the silence hang heavy. Your terms, Vivian. They just changed. My terms now are $10 million for the boutique, full payment of all family debts, and a seat on the VM Atelier board, or I call the press conference. He didn't need proof. He only needed enough confusion and scandal to tank the Volante deal and trigger regulatory investigations into my dual identities. The chaos alone would cause hundreds of millions in damage. The final ultimatum. I pushed back my chair and stood, moving to the edge of the large glass table, my shadow falling over the financial documents that spelled out their ruin. My initial wave of panic was instantly replaced by a cold, surgical clarity. You're right, father, I said, my voice dangerously soft. The terms just changed, but they changed in my favor. I looked straight at Thomas Volante, bypassing my family completely. Mr. Volante, you have been trying to renegotiate the acquisition for 72 hours. Your claims of financial misrepresentation are baseless, and your presence here violates the non-compete clause you signed. I then turned to my father, my eyes unwavering. You have threatened to publicly discredit my company, a company that provides employment for thousands and contributes significantly to the global economy, all to save yourself from political and financial ruin. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. Victoria, call the media team. Move the V. Morgan identity reveal to tonight at 7:00 p.m. Book the presidential ballroom at the Grand Hyatt and contact my board members. Tell them we are holding an emergency meeting to address a hostile, family-led attempt at corporate sabotage. Victoria was already dialing before I finished speaking. My father's face went white. Tonight, Vivian? You can't prepare a press conference in 5 hours! I've got the 9:00 a.m. slot secured. I don't need 5 hours, father, I replied, allowing myself a grim smile. I've been preparing for this day for 10 years. I snapped my fingers. Mr. Graham, my attorney, immediately placed a stack of documents in front of my father, Devlin, and Tinsley. This is not a negotiation anymore, I stated, my voice echoing the authority of a $2.4 billion CEO, not the family disappointment. This is an acceptance of terms. You will sign them now, or you walk away with nothing and face the consequences of your own incompetence. I pointed to Senator Hayes's contract. You can choose one of two things. Option A, you sign this non-disclosure and non-compete agreement, which includes a video recording of you publicly stating that I built VM Atelier alone, without your financial input or creative guidance. In exchange, I will pay off your mortgages and provide you with a lifetime stipend that allows you to live comfortably though modestly. Option B, saying, you hold your press conference tomorrow. I publicly release your foreclosure notices and the full details of your campaign fund mismanagement, and I allow the SEC to proceed with Devlin's case. You will be ruined, both politically and financially, and you will lose the entire estate. My father's body slumped. The humiliation was absolute. He looked at the details of the stipend, then at the foreclosure notices, and finally at his son. Devlin, I continued, placing his contract next. Option A, I provide the $850,000 for top CC defense and a guaranteed plea deal for probation, provided you sign a sworn affidavit agreeing your guilt and agreeing to exit the financial sector permanently. Option B, 7 years in prison. Devlin, the man who preached about finance and risk, was crying silently. Finally, Tinsley, I slid her contract across the table. Option A. You will sign a lifetime non-disparagement agreement, and I will hire you. Not as a socialite, but as a sales trainee at our accessories subsidiary in the Midwest, starting at $18 an hour. You will live in company, provided housing, and I will pay off your debt after 3 years of exemplary service. Option B. Say you are evicted next month, your credit remains destroyed, and you find out how much a designer dress really costs when you have to buy it yourself. She stared at the 18 figure, absolute horror replacing the initial rage. I gave them 5 minutes to read. The only sound in the room was the quiet tapping of Victoria, sending out the press release announcing the emergency evening conference. Senator George Hayes, the man who had dismissed me my entire life, picked up a pen. His hand shook so violently he had to steady it with his other hand. With a scrawl that was barely recognizable, he signed the contract, choosing quiet solvency over public destruction. Devlin signed next, defeated. Tinsley, after a dramatic flourish, signed with a frustrated tear that splattered on the non-disparagement clause. I looked at Thomas Volante. Mr. Volante, this family meeting is now concluded. I suggest you call your lawyer and remind yourself about the non-compete clause, or VM. Atelier will sue you for every penny of the acquisition. Good day. He stood, pale and defeated, realizing his leverage had vanished, and quickly left the room. My family, stripped of their power and their pride, stood to leave. My father paused at the door, the senator mask completely shattered. Why, Vivian? He asked. The question filled with quiet, absolute resentment. Why go to all this trouble, just to humiliate us? I leaned back in my chair, looking out at the glittering San Diego skyline. My city, my success, my life. I didn't do this to humiliate you, Father. I did this to protect the legacy of the one person who truly loved me, Mother's legacy. And I did this because the price of your acceptance was always my silence, my servitude, and my poverty. The terms of my success are simple. I will not buy your love, and I will not pay for your mistakes. They left, defeated and utterly empty-handed, walking out of the life I had meticulously built without them. The valuable lesson and final call to action. The most important lesson I took from this entire journey. A lesson I hope resonates deeply with my wonderful, resilient audience of seniors. Is this: never apologize for the success you earned, and never let family guilt be a silent tax on your happiness. You are not responsible for carrying the weight of others' poor choices, no matter their title or their blood relation. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to draw a bright, solid line in the sand and prioritize your own peace over their comfort. Your worth is not tied to their approval. It is built on your resilience, your work ethic, and the solid, healthy boundaries you finally set. Thank you so much for joining me and allowing me to share this incredibly personal journey. If my story about setting boundaries and finding strength in the face of family dismissal hit home for you, please hit the like button and share this video with a friend who might need to hear it. I need you to help this story reach more people who might be feeling invisible or taken advantage of. So, subscribe to the channel and please hit that notification bell so they don't miss new videos. Finally, I invite you to share your own stories of overcoming family drama or setting crucial boundaries in the comments below. Your experiences are powerful and they truly inspire this community. I look forward to reading your comments and continuing this journey with you. Until next time, stay strong, stay visible, and keep building a life you are proud of.